The first time I heard my own voice on the other end of the line, I almost dropped my phone into the toilet. I was home alone. My husband was at his parents' for the weekend, and I was just about to settle in for a quiet evening of takeout and True Detective when the call came through. It wasn't an unknown number. It was mine. I stared at the screen. The caller ID showed my own name and my own number. I didn't recognize the area code. I was in Chicago. The number was from California. I didn't answer, certain it was some kind of prank call. But then the voicemails started coming in. They kept coming in even after I blocked the number. His first message was just a whisper. "Help me." Then the line went dead. The next one started with heavy breathing, the kind you do when you're trying to calm yourself down. "Endin, I don't want to be here. I didn't mean to come here. Please, save me." Then the line would go dead, and a new message would pop up on the screen. Each one was worse than the last. By the fifth or sixth call, I was on the floor in my pajamas, huddled in a corner of my bedroom. The messages were coming so fast now, one right after the other. There was no pause in between them, and each one contained a new piece of information. Things I hadn't done, places I'd never been, places that sounded like they could be real, but I couldn't find them on Google Maps. In one call, I described waking up in a hotel room, paralyzed by fear as I realized I'd been stripped naked and left tied to the bed. In the next call, I told her that I had been burned alive in a house in the Hollywood Hills. By the final call, I had seen what awaited me if I followed these directions. The voice on the phone told me I would be at the Museum of Modern Art in Midtown, Manhattan, and then I would be dead. At the end of every message, there was static, a lot of static, and then a street address. That's how I knew that I should investigate them, because if I went to these places, I would die there, so I figured I had nothing to lose. Why not go to these places, see what was going on? And when I got to the museum, there was a news crew gathered outside the entrance. They looked at me funny when I approached them and asked if they could help me. I explained what was happening and they laughed. They said there had been a murder in the museum, a young woman who worked as a security guard. She'd been stabbed multiple times by a man with a pair of scissors. The police had caught him. He was a homeless guy with a history of mental illness. I thanked them and walked away quickly. I found a secluded spot around the back of the building, and I took out my phone to listen to the next message. Now that I had confirmed the first one was true, I needed to know where I was going next. This is what the voice said to me. "You won't make it out this time. He's waiting for you. He's always waiting for you. You can't escape him." I felt a chill run down my spine. Who was he? Waiting for me. Why? Why was I being hunted? When I listened to the next message, I heard my own voice growing fainter and fainter, until all I could hear was a whisper, and then it stopped. There was only silence on the other end of the line. I waited, holding my breath, and then the new message popped up on the screen. It read, "Don't trust him." And then below that, the address of an abandoned warehouse district on the outskirts of town. As I made my way through the maze of graffiti-covered buildings, I realized what was happening. This was a suicide mission. Whoever was behind these messages wanted me to go to these places because I would die there. And I was starting to understand why. These were the places I would die in this timeline, in this reality. But there was one thing I didn't understand. Why? Why did whoever want me dead keep sending me messages from the future to stop me from dying in the past? And when I finally made it to the warehouse, and I opened the door, I saw the answer written in blood on the wall. It was a message from the future. One message in particular stood out from the others. It was scrawled across the floor in big letters. It said, "Stop the loop." And then I understood. This warehouse wasn't the next place I was going to die. It was the last place I'd died in this reality, in this timeline, and I was stuck in a time loop, sent back in time to prevent myself from dying over and over and over again. And whoever was behind this wanted me to keep looping until I broke the cycle. I didn't want to do that. I was tired of being hunted, was tired of being scared. So I stayed in the warehouse, and I sent another version of myself into the loop, a version that would be smarter, stronger, more resourceful than I was. I left a note for her on the wall next to the front door. It simply said, "Don't stop." Then I erased myself from that timeline, from that reality, and I hoped it would be enough.